Hello and welcome to another update video about Solana. So Solana is now getting really interesting because here we are now going to see the decision if we still are in this fourth wave, which is certainly high probability as long as we are holding this green support area, which is, by the way, defined as the Fibonacci retracements of wave 3, the relevant ones, which is between the 38.2% Fib and the 50%. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean we need to get down that low. It could very well be that within this wave 4 we have a so-called running flat correction. Now this is quite a rare one, but it does happen. Here a running flat, basically, let me change the color, then we'll see it a little bit better, where we came down in an A wave, moved up in an overshooting B wave and came down in C. The C can go below A, that's the more common one. That's why likelihood would suggest that this is going to happen if we are still in a wave 4. So I'd be watching here for possibly another low below the low of the A wave, which is below 21.35, while ideally holding the wave 4 support, which goes all the way down to around $20.50. Then we could still be in a fourth wave that would be pretty much in line with what Ethereum is doing and Bitcoin is doing, because with Ethereum and Bitcoin, we are still waiting for one more push to the upside. Likelihood would suggest that Solana is sort of to a degree related and correlated with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Therefore, if Ethereum and Bitcoin are still doing one more high, Solana could do the same. And if it was starting from here, then what we had is basically a running flat. So again, view is, and that hasn't changed from the previous video, that as long as we're holding support, we can still push higher at least one more time here in the fifth wave. Bear in mind, the fifth wave itself will be in 5 waves. Looking at the bigger picture, we had here off the low on the 29th of December, we moved up in a 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we've got 5 waves. And in the fifth wave, it could be that all 5 are already done, yeah. But certainly we've got a 1, 2, 3, and here's now where there's a bit of uncertainty, because the problem that we have here is that, yes, we made a new high. This theoretically fulfills the requirements, just move that to the side, that the wave 5 is already done, because in theory all a wave 5 needs to do is to push above the wave 3 high, which it did. Yeah. Now if we look at the lower level structure, this looks really corrective. However, you sometimes get these so-called ending diagonals, and they are sometimes not very beautiful, and therefore I have to see it as a possibility that this move up is already finished. This would become likely. Basically, the signal for that would be if we break below that $20.50 level. What I would assume then is that the wave 1 is complete and we're coming down in a wave 2. This could then send us down to, so to make it very simple, the break of the $20.50 level could send us down into the region between 16.59, which is the 50% retracement of the entire move, all the way down to 11.69 in a wave 2. If we break below 11.69, in most cases, we are in a much more bearish pattern, and it's not a wave 2, and it will be an impulse to the downside. Remember, long term, medium term, I'm still watching for the risk that we could drop down here and that we will make another low. Yeah, which will become very likely if we drop below 11.69. Then we would have to focus on the idea again that also short term here, the uptrend is broken and we're going to make a new low for Solana, which is still possible, as we haven't really seen a larger 1-2 setup work out now. But either way, whatever is going to happen, I would always encourage people to live in the present, not try to trade based on expectations, but trade on what you actually see. And what we see is if the price goes into this region and maybe we see an initial green wave or something, then it might provide a good entry point here with a stop loss below the area to trade a possible wave 3. Yeah, because in theory, of course, everything can happen, right? What many people don't understand is nobody is crystal balling here. It is all about finding good entries and managing risk. So And if we push higher, which is at the moment what I would actually expect, but my expectations are only my own bias, right? So I wouldn't necessarily trade on that. As long as we hold support, obviously, the view is we still push higher here. The reason I still expect that is because Bitcoin and Ethereum are probably also still going to make another high. So that's why I would say we most likely have a wave 4 here. That's certainly the option I'm watching closely. And we could get one more high. If we get that, what is target? So we take a look at the length of the third wave. Depends on how low we go. So this could shift a little bit depending on how low the wave 4 eventually goes. But if I base it on the most recent low, it should take us into the region between 26.44 and 29.57. That's another reason why I'm thinking wave 5 is probably not in yet, because it never reached a 61.8% extension of the third wave. So that's sort of the area that would be most likely, a wave 5 would get into between 26.40 roughly and 29.57. That's sort of how we see it. Obviously this will shift a little bit, if we come down a bit more, if we max out the green support area, it may only reach 25.64 to 28.78. If the wave 4 is running flat, I have to set it a bit higher, and we would then look at 27 to 30.20. But I would not be too religious about these target areas, so see them more as a guide. There is no specific rule. They are more likely like target resistance areas. But it's certainly not a bad idea, I think, to take partial profits depending on what time frame you're actually trading in this area. There's also a possibility to identify the length of the wave 5 in that we take the length of the wave 1, go to the low of the wave 4, and we're looking for the 1.618 extension. Now, that doesn't really take us way high, so I think the 1.618 extension here, 25.28, would be... It does not make much sense, and it's a bit pointless to use that because it's basically where the previous high was as well. So we could look at extensions, for example, the 2.618 extension at 27.32, which would basically lie in the middle of those target areas I just showed you. There isn't a lot of confluence, so for me, the other method to calculate the target makes a bit more sense. Okay, and that's my update about Solana. I hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.